Boys and girls, good to see you. Welcome back to another video. We're going to be talking about a coaching possible hire happening today. Contracts are expired. Two big ones, Rob Sale and Mike Peterson. We talked about it on Wednesday's show. Could it be coming to a close? Could we see an extension today? Could we not hear anything today? I don't know, but we do have an interview happening today, which we need to discuss. Also, possibly two more commits could be happening for 2025, which could bump that class up just a little bit more than it already is. And I have my thoughts and opinions about that as well. And then the trench work. Got an incredible article we're going to talk about that really brings some insight to a lot of things. So let's roll the intro and talk about it. Skip, well, Coach Skip back in the action, boys and girls. 10 Skipper set to for an interview today. Broke by our man Silk, aka Corey, aka the man that runs Stadium and Gale with Dan and Nick. Guys do a great job over there. Broke it this morning, then reported out that this is legitimately happening, which is awesome to hear. That there is an interview for Tim Skipper, who was once a Florida coach back in 2015 through 2016, running back coach, and then 2017 and 18 was the linebacker coach those 2 years. Then went on to UNLV, Central Michigan, and then it's been at Fresno State for the last 4 years and has been the acting head coach / interim head coach for those 2 years in 2023 and 2024, and now is coming to the Florida Gators. Now, clearly his background is that linebacker position. We know Mike Peterson carries that outside linebacker / edge title at the moment. He tweeted out earlier this week, like, oh, glory to God, or something like that, something along those lines. I retweeted, like, what did that mean? Did that mean that, hey, we're back in business? Does that mean, hey, we're moving on? We don't know. With this interview happening, could that be a replacement? I don't want to look that far into it because I think something else we have to remember is that Ron Roberts came in last year with that co-defensive coordinator / assistant coach / ice cream code maker, whatever title he had, but also part of that was linebackers coach. He took that as well, given that Bateman left to go to A&M. So we did not have a linebacker coach just dedicated to the linebackers last year. And in all funniness, I mean, the linebacker group was, I think, at its best last year, even though we didn't have a specific guy dedicated to it. But with Ron probably taking over those DC roles, you got to assume that maybe Austin stepped into that linebacker coach a little bit as well. And he was going to Alabama, Armstrong was, before coming to Florida, to be their linebacker coach. So both of these guys possess very great linebacker ability to coach that position. So no problem there. But again, you never want too many guys wearing too many hats. I think that's been something that Florida has been struggling with, having guys wear too many hats. We obviously know about Coach Vinny coming in. He's wearing that safety hat. So if him and Will Harris can split that secondary, which is fantastic. Also wearing that co-defensive coordinator hat, which we've already hashed that out. No need to unpackage that any more than it already is. But I believe that with Skipper coming in for this interview, if he can come and just be the linebacker coach and us able to still retain Roberts, I would love that. I think being able to separate the two is huge. Again, we have noticed that our edge players / outside linebackers do drop into coverage a lot. So I think there is something there. And again, I've heard kind of Chapman, and I know through people who've communicated with Chapman, would like kind of sometimes the entire line too, to be able to coach the edge rushers. So there could be a little confusion there on, are they edge? Are they outside linebackers? Again, they play a little bit of both, right? It's definitely a mixture of the two. And that was obviously a big, concern for Pyburn when he left this year, was doesn't want to drop back into coverage all the time, wants to be able to blitz the quarterback as well. So that position obviously has multiple roles to it. But if Skipper is able to come in and coach the linebackers, again, somebody with a ton of experience, somebody who possesses that Florida culture, which I love going back to 2015, 16, and 2017 and 2018. Got to love that. So we'll love this addition to the defense. Clearly, the defense seems to be the major focus thus far for Napier and the Gators. Again, big conversations on offensive coordinator. That obviously has been put to bed. But outside of the departure of Armstrong, had the safety hire and possibly one more interview. And again, we're still waiting on Peterson if they're able to retain him and move forward. So we'll see. We'll keep an eye on it. Again, if anything else happens in regards to these contracts, we did talk about this on Wednesday. Stadium and Gale, Dan commented on it and said, look, conversations are happening today in regards to these two gentlemen, being Sale and Peterson, which we'll get into here in just a moment. So we'll see how that all shakes up. But like I said, the last of Sale, could this be the last of Rob Sale, given the fact that we haven't heard anything? We've seen him out on the recruiting trail from time to time. We've seen DeCoster on the recruiting trail. Now, going back a few weeks, we did discuss that post about an offensive lineman where the mom posted on Facebook about the new coaching changes that were happening, right? That led us to believe, could there be some change that we see in this offensive line? Again, I think for me, Rob Sale probably is going to take somewhat of a pay cut because he embodies that slash offensive coordinator title now. Will he continue to maintain that? I don't know. Given the fact that we haven't seen this thing come to a close is very surprising, given the fact that the other names that were up for contract have come to a close, have figured it out. One being Jaluk, Billy Gonzalez being the other, and even Tyler Miles. All those guys that were up for contract have re-signed and are good to go. Yet these two are still left to be unknown on their destination. Now, we're going to talk about offensive line, the breakdown, the article that I told you guys about at the beginning of the show in just a few moments because it's very interesting. And is it Sale? Is it DeCoster? Because as much as criticism as Sale has gotten, I even said at the end of this last year, the O-line made a tremendous change, looked much better, even getting another brick for Slaughter, going back to Osiris Torrance. So there seems to be a phenomenal development happening with the offensive line. We've got some numbers that we're going to talk about as well. So this is going to be interesting to see, again, if Peterson and Sale are to move on as they are set to expire today. Now, they could have signed their contracts already and been moving on. Again, I don't know the logistics of it. Like, let's say it does expire today. Does that mean they can't show up to work tomorrow, right? If their contract's not working. They've been working up until this point. We've been seeing photos of them. We didn't see neither of these coaches at the Shrine Bowl. That doesn't mean too much at all, given the fact that he didn't have any offensive linemen going there, and nor did we have any edge rushers / outside linebackers outside Shamar at that Shrine Bowl. And of course, Roberts was there, who technically was a linebacker coach, and of course Billy was there as well, managing, kind of representing the rest of the team. So we saw Sale throughout this last month. I haven't seen much more of these guys on the recruiting trail. That doesn't mean anything, but it will be something that we'll be keeping an eye on. And I'm thinking of either doing a call-in show later tonight or on Sunday to get just a full grasp. It's always great. We always talk with the fans after the games and get their feelings and thoughts. I think with the portal essentially closed his first cycle coming through, we haven't had the hire changes, right? Because there's still 2 that are remaining. I wanted for that to come to a close. If that doesn't, I think we'll still do one to get a pulse of how everyone's feeling. Love to always kind of talk and see where everyone's heads. I think there always call for great conversations when we do that. So keep your eyes and ears peeled for that one. If you want to be involved and call in and do that, they're always a great time. So we'll keep you up to date on that and let you know. Now, here's what we got going on right now, though. Onis, the cornerback from 2025, obviously was crystal balled early on in the cycle. Earlier on, when I say that, to that early signing period back in December, then the news came out that he'd be signing at this early period. I believe next week is when he intends to sign, and that's nothing new that I've heard. I remember originally the date was early February, like 2nd or 3rd, I believe, around the 4th. I think the next sign date is around next week. So could he be set to sign again? We've been crystal balled. There's been a lot of teasing going on the Bird app, especially with Coach Harris as well. This seems to be in good favor for Florida. And another one that has been thrown into the mix is Javari Flowers. Now, Javari Flowers is an interesting one because he just reclassified from 2026 to 2025. And typically, I remember we talked with Keith about this, when these guys reclassify, their rating can change, right? Because they go from being compared to the 2026 class and 2026 cornerbacks and 2026 safeties, right, alongside their position group, and that's what justifies their rankings. So if they reclassify, it could go either way, right? Because of the competition they're going up against. So I took a look. I added both guys to the calculator if were to come. The reason why I've added him to this list, by the way, is because he's on an official visit. The news broke that he has reclassifying immediately. Florida was on an official visit list. And if you look on through right now, Miami leads the way. But here's my thought process on this. We've talked about portal needs for the Florida Gators, cornerback, safety. They go get a veteran safety, but cornerback was another one. There's a lot of youth coming in, a lot of exciting youth, a lot of top-tier guys. And shout out to Ben Hanks Jr. was technically, and some of you are going to be frustrated, may have not heard this yet, but Dallas Wilson dropped out of a 5-star on all platforms, 247 and on 3. But Ben Hanks held on to his 5th star or actually gained one. I don't think he was a 5-star, but Ben Hicks Jr. got that 5th star from On3. So kudos to him. But Dallas Wilson dropped a lot, which everyone had their thoughts and opinions about. That's a conversation for another day. I've kind of got exhausted with the conversation on that. We know what we got with Dallas Wilson. All is good. No need to talk about anything else. But Javari Flowers, when you add him, he has now been considered reclassified to 2025. When I added him to this list, he is the sixth highest recruit in this class if he were to commit to the Florida Gators, behind Hilton Stubbs, who was damn near a 5-star, Ben Hanks, who is a 5-star, Lagonza Hayward, who on 3 rated very high as well, and then Javari Flowers. So this cornerback class / safety class that is coming in for the Florida Gators has the potential to be something very, very special. So again, my theory is that because they didn't go and replace that cornerback out in the portal like they would have liked, they had eyes on Javari. They said, listen, if you reclassify right now, you're good enough to be a legitimate threat, and we want to work with you. That's my thought. I could be wrong on that. And again, I have Onus in here as well, and Onus is a 4-star as well, but he's 90.1 on 247, where Javari is a 94.99. And again, he's reclassified. 5'10", 165. So really cool stuff there. If they're able to land both of those, this puts the class at a total of 286 from, I think, a 280 is what it was. So a massive jump for the Florida Gators. What does that do for the entire class from 286? Let me tell you what that does for the entire class here. 1 second. So before those two, with including the transfer portal, entire class to 281, which is in 10th. Again, not just recruiting, but overall, because this calculator adds in Kofi and the safety and things like that. So keep that in mind. But it puts us to 286, which would jump us up essentially one spot. Actually, no, 2 spots. 286 would put us above A&M and Michigan, right behind LSU at 288, who are at 39 commits. So again, we kind of look and see, okay, well, LSU was very aggressive in the transfer portal, but you see Florida is right behind them with the moves that they did in the portal plus the recruiting. Again, LSU's 39 commits is portal plus recruiting as well. So these two guys would be great additions, I believe, to the team in an area where we have agreed that some depth would do us some service. These guys add to that. Again, not necessarily experience, but I don't mind a young secondary if you can, again, have great trench work, and I'm excited to see what that trenches can do. And speaking of trenches, Wars won and lost in here. Shout out to our man Dylan Olive, Hightop's very own, over at Sports Florida Gators on Sports Illustrated. Wrote this great article. Going to take a few tidbits. I read the whole thing. We don't like to do that. If you guys want to check out the rest of it, go check it out again on Sports Illustrated by Dylan Olive. Fantastic data here, speaking about just the progress the offensive line made last year. Okay, here's what I want to go in on. And again, the reason I'm excited and what it has me excited going into 2025 is I expect these guys to build on this, to grow on this. And now the big question is going to be, once we talk about this, is it Sale? Did Sale stuff finally click? Did DeCoster come in to make a big difference? Those are the things that I don't know, and I'm hoping they can figure those things out. But Florida was the 5th most improved unit in the nation in sack rate from 23 to 24, improving their PFF pass blocking grade a whole 14.2 points, moving them from 62nd in FBS to 11th. They averaged only 1.7 sacks allowed per game, up 66 spots nationally from the year before. That's massive, especially given the fact that they transferred from Merce to DJ Lagway, had a lot of movement back there, a lot of youth back there as well, injuries in the running back room. You've got just a ton of inexperienced guys back there that you're having to protect, that probably are having to take more time than normal, and to prevent those things is huge. Another big one that I want to give a shout out to, because this is somebody that Stephen Harris and I were heavy on going into last year and then this year, and then we thought we lost him in the portal, which I thought was going to be a big loss, is Damian George. Damian George had a massive improvement where the year before he graded out at a 56.7, ranking 75th out of 92 SEC players. Not good. Not great. No bueno. Now, remember, George was kind of rotating back and forth between that tackle and guard position, and we argued, Harris and I, that he'd be better suited at that guard position. Played guard last year. Much better. Graded out with a 75.9. That was 19 points, almost 20 points higher than the year before. So massive improvement for George. And that was just simply, in my opinion, just a change of position for Damian George. So the big question is it Sale? And the reason why I bring this up, and I brought this article up, because we were just talking about it. Contracts are coming up today. You got to believe if Sale did make this much of an impact and had this much influence on the O-line, I would assume Bailey wants to do his best to try to keep him engaged and keep him locked in. If he feels like, okay, I don't need to send the farm because DeCoster came in and did a good job, I think this will tell us a lot today. But I know some people were kind of, Sale can kick rocks, he can do all these things. I think we got to pump the horn on that, pump the brakes a little bit, because we're starting to see some great things. And going into this year, this is why, again, one more reason why the expectation should be high for the Florida Gators heading into this season, because of these things that we just went over. So, all good stuff. Again, shout out to Dylan Olive and all that good information. So if you guys enjoyed today's show, of course, be sure to smash the like button, subscribe, do all that good stuff. Let me know your thoughts and comments down below on the things we discussed. How do you feel about these two recruits? How do you feel about Tim Skipper possibly becoming a Florida Gator once again, coaching the linebackers? Could he be your replacement? A lot of unknowns still as we close up January, headed into February, which is kind of that quiet month for recruiting as well. And then we've got 28 days. February is a short month, but you'll blink and it'll be over. And we're kind of already back into the swing of things. Dallas Wilson, also big news, has been enrolled, which is exciting. That's kaput for good now. It was good and then not good, and good. It's been mayhem. Good to go, which is I'm excited about, because hopefully we'll see him come spring game and get to see a little bit of this new talent that will be coming into the Florida Gators this spring ball. So March going to get rock and rolling. Hopefully, I'm excited to get that data from Tyler Miles on just the weightlifting and how these guys are putting on weight and showing improvement. We're going to be watching for names like Hermione McLean, watching names like Jamari Lyons. How is he doing his recovery? These are things that we're going to be looking for heading into these next couple of months, keeping an eye on as we get ready to rock and roll into the 2025 season. So, y'all smash the like button, subscribe. I'll see you boys in the next one. Peace and love, baby.